I came across this article in Time magazine that did this humongous global research that said 45% of powerful women think men resent them. But guess what? 2/3 of those women say they did not want to work for other women. So there is a fundamental flaw in that feminist model that we need to address before we can succeed and close the gender gap. Because if we don't address the social and business model and only switch gender, we're not going to get there. And I'm not going to ask you, how many of you don't want to work for your bosses, because I know you're sitting next to your bosses here. How many of you think that women are leading in top positions with feminine powers versus the masculine powers? This is what women have been taught. That's my tip number 2. Time to redefine power. Power as a blend of hard and soft powers. We get so caught up in gender identification around qualities and values of masculinity and femininity that we forget we all have both. And we all need both. I don't debate the natural physical differences between men and women. I'm well aware of that. But I'm talking about masculinity and femininity as it relates to qualities and values. Thinking, feeling. Competition, cooperation, right? Qualities, think of it in terms of qualities. You need masculine powers for competition. Competition is not about win-win. There would not be a competition if there was not a win-lose situation. You need that in your businesses. As a marketer, I needed it because there's finite amount of population, and in order for you to succeed in a fiercely competitive global marketplace, you have to take share away from another company. That's the reality. So nothing wrong with that masculine model as it relates to financial performance, as it relates to competition. Women compete. Women like sports, right? But when it comes to leading your people, it's all about relating, linking, affiliation, nurturing, caring, empathy. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The best of the male leaders out there that are moving masses, culturally and socially, they lead with those feminine powers. And what are we doing? We're telling women to man up. Feminine power is not in conflict with financial performance. Feminine power is not in conflict with your job performance. Believe it or not, I have a ton of research to show you that men and women largely agree on the life goals. It's the position of power and domination that separates men from women and women from other women, okay? Because the need to control, command, is really a feeling of powerlessness. It has nothing to do with power. So think about your leadership style. Think about whether or not you are abandoning your natural instincts of feminine powers that make the best of the leaders very successful at what they do. And ask yourself, am I the woman leader other women want to follow? Am I harder on women than men? Are we judging women harder because we expect more of them? Because all of that leads into what I consider gender bias and gender stereotype. Tip number 3, avoid all gender stereotypes. It leads into gender bias. Forget that 40% of American women out-earn their husbands, right? Forget that 60% of personal wealth in the US are in the hands of women. Both men and women, when they hear the word provider, what do they think? Men. Women too. The word compassionate in that research was viewed positively for women, negatively for men. As if there is something wrong for a man to be compassionate. There is this cultural obsession about the differences between men and women. And the more we feed into it as businesswomen, as business leaders, the more we feed into those stereotypes, the more we create the gender bias. A simple curtain in an orchestra audition increased women's participation by 30%. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about gender bias and stereotyping. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Women do it just as much as men.